Okay, guys, as you probably know, my concept of preparing is maybe a little bit lower than some of you might choose. However, I've got a cheat sheet. Okay, March 17, 2008. Tony hired me as a call coordinator. Why did I walk in and apply for a job with TransFinder? I hated where I was. I was in a bureaucratic nightmare where nobody gave a hoot. Tony's heard bits of this, he may not have heard the whole thing. I had a couple other interviews scheduled right behind my talk with Tony. One of them was with one of our competitors that's now sort of headquartered in Texas, and we all know who that is, and I'm not going to mention their name. Tony hadn't made me a final offer yet. I left the building, I got back to my job that I hated. I picked up the phone, I called that recruiter, and I said, take me off the interview list for that other company. I know where I want to work. Tony asked me something nobody had ever asked in an interview before. Tony, I know we talked 45 minutes and you still find it hard to believe that this is the only thing I remember about that whole discussion. Tony asked me something. He said, what are you going to tell me about your attitude that's going to make me think the next interaction you have if you're hired here will show me that you care? What are you going to say about yourself? And unfortunately, Tony, I do not remember my answer. Good. However, I must have given the right answer. And I realized I'm walking out of a place where our end users, our stakeholders, were an interference in our day-to-day life, and that's pretty well how we treated them. And Tony wanted to make it clear before he let me in the door that that wasn't acceptable behavior. That there was a culture of interacting with each other like we cared, and interacting with that client that we cared, and wrapping our heads around the fact that these are the people who feed us. And we better take care of them, and do it with a smile. About 3 years later, the dollar coin thing shows up. We're going through a hiring binge. I don't know what happened, it must have been a good year in sales. We had enough of a budget to get some more help. But a whole bunch of people coming in. A lot of them in training and implementation and a couple in sales. And I remember that discussion I had with Tony, and I wanted to do something because I realized that we were getting better polished, but we weren't yet perfect, especially in-house. There was a little bit of bickering. We used to joke about throwing things back and forth across the wall. And what I realized was somebody coming in new, if they walked in on a bad day, you could catch 3 of us shouting at each other. And I wanted to break that thinking process. And I couldn't think of an easy way to do it. But we were right next door to right above a bank.
Above a bank.
Right? So I ran downstairs and I said, give me a handful of dollar coins. And as each person walked in, and hopefully many of you have had that experience from me, I handed them a dollar coin and I said, listen, this is one of the greatest places to work in the world, but sometimes we forget to say please, and sometimes we forget to say thank you. Not just to the customer, but to each other. So in case we've ever forgotten, here's please and thank you for your career. And there passed the coin. That's the story about that. So now, what's it been like here to be here almost 12 years? First and most important, I am surrounded by smart and generous people. I need a hand, somebody's there to back me up. Nobody rubs my nose in. Okay, the other thing was, Tony warned me ahead of time, and it's held true. I had to learn something today, Tony, so the record hasn't stopped. Every time I am in here, somebody shows me something. Yesterday it was a client, today it was Bob Japp. There's always something to learn, always something to give you that little bit of an edge to make that next call easier. And that hasn't changed. So we covered the Tony, and you think you're really gonna give a hoot thing? We covered the gold coins. I'm gonna miss everybody here. I wish I had found TransFinder earlier. Instead of a little less than 12, I might have been able to do a little less than 20, or a little less than 30. But it's time, guys. I gotta take some time, have some fun around the house. Salespeople, please keep pushing these new contracts with heavy professional services. There might be a little bit of 1099 work. Just saying. I want to be fun about this. This is also self-serving. I'll do a little bit of tutoring for a program that I'm particularly fond of down at the community college, if I can ever find an old transcript from 1978. We're going to do a little bit of traveling. I want to do it while I'm young. I want to do it while I'm healthy. T, before he let me talk to Tony, did ask me what my multi-year plan was. And realizing that I was older than most of the crew, including the fellow who was interviewing me, I said something odd. I said, I'm hoping I'm interviewing for my last job. I also told him I wanted out at 62. Well, the 62 plan didn't work quite as well. I missed that by a year and a month or so. But consider it TransFinder's fault. I was well paid the whole time I was here. Hopefully nobody thinks I was overpaid. It's time to go. Time to turn it over to people who can more than handle it. And guys, I am going to miss every one of you. And speaking of gold coins, I want to pass something out. I'm going to put them in a dish here. This is my goodbye present. Be nice to each other, and I'm going to steal the line that I stole from a middle school sign. Junior, if you're still sitting here, I think it was your kid's middle school that had it. Was work hard, play nice, have fun. But don't forget to play nice, guys. Thank you very much. Hey, I made it through without crying. Everybody grab a coin on the way to the apple pie.
That's right. So before we get some apple pie and we drink some and we toast to you, apple pie. So I asked, like, what are we doing pie? We're gonna. So we asked, we're gonna get a cake for you. It's like, well, I'm not a big cake guy. I'm a pie guy. So pie it is. So I just want to know, like, of course we're gonna get pies instead of. But obviously it was your wish, so we want to make sure that. And I thought about everything you're doing with the coin, and it's such an awesome thing. Got you something that's very special, and I think talk about a coin. You're welcome to open this. It's a treasury of the United States. Love for you to open this. But I thought about this. I thought about this coin thing you have there.
Yeah, well, Tony will be cleaning it up for a month.
That's okay.
You won't be.
That's right.
The proof coin.
Open that. Yeah, open that. That's right.
This will go in an honored place in the house.
Something that, well, the doorbell still works. Maybe his fob doesn't work, but the doorbell still will work. But I'll tell you one thing, that to make sure that you're here forever is that we're gonna start a new program. When a new person walks in the door, we're gonna recognize as the Bill Hill coin, and everyone walks in the door, there's a little story behind it, so everyone that walks in the door will have, Science Fund is gonna take over that role, that we're gonna give out that dollar coin, and we're gonna let them know why we're doing this, because of how special it is. So, again, thank you for everything you've done.